Episode. Awesome. Again, welcome to District 7 Speech Contest Judge Training. And with that, we'll get started. We have a few links that are in the chat. And if you are watching the replay, please just go to the District 7 website, so d7.toastmasters.org, and you will get all of these links within the contest area on the district website. So don't worry about that if you're watching the replay. So with that, with the three folks that we have here today, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and your time with us here today. So let's get started. One of the things I want to bring up is the three purposes of speech contests. So you see one on the screen, provide an opportunity to practice competitive speaking. Anyone want to guess what the other ones are? Damn, I'm not having any takers here, so I'm going to go on and
Practice
put them out.
judging?
What happened?
Practice judging?
That also is a good idea. Yeah, that's why we have contests to practice judging as well, because judging is different from evaluating, so that we could see it from that perspective. Absolutely. So providing an opportunity to practice competitive speaking, right, for everyone has an opportunity to put their hat in the ring, right, for every contest. Also provide interesting educational programs for members and the public. So the perfect opportunity for clubs to get the message out and invite people to their club contest, right, and even the area, district, division, etc. So we have the opportunity to share that, and then also provide an opportunity to learn by observing proficient speakers, right? And absolutely learn the functions of judging, being a timer under pressure in a contest scenario. Those things come in handy sometimes just in your outside of Toastmaster world, right? Where you have the opportunity to do the same things. And like I'll be doing robotics judging tomorrow for a lot of the teams, and a lot of it is timed, right? So just again, practicing some skills that you could use outside of the space. And just to be clear, if you judge any contest beyond the club level, so that's area, division, and district, you will not be able to compete in the contest for this season, right? So if you are interested in being a contestant this year, um, you would not be able to compete until next year's contest season. So just keep that in mind if you are so inclined. All right, moving on. The judges have an obligation, right? And we have an obligation to a variety of stakeholders. One is the contestants primarily. Obviously, we're here for them. And the day of the contest, we are looking at each contestant individually. We are looking to also have an obligation to Toastmasters, right? We want to make sure that we are filling out our judging and our ballots correctly so that Toastmasters International has the correct information to our audience, right? We have an obligation to our audience, and hopefully you get to see that also to yourself, right? So we're here to do a good job, and we have an obligation to begin with, right? So as a judge, you are taking on a responsibility that is also anonymous, right? So when we look at judging versus evaluating, there are two ways of looking at it. When we're judging, we are selecting a winner for that contest in that particular moment, right? We're looking at every individual, we're evaluating them on that criteria, against that criteria, and judging, scoring them according to that criteria, right? And then at the end, we sum up everyone's scores and we know first, second, third place, right? Totally objective with each individual. When we look at evaluating, it's really an appraisal and advice. And if you look at our language, we give a positive, something they can work on, and then something they excelled at, right? So that we hopefully give them an evaluation that helps them to evolve, right? And we are judging them at this point, not giving advice, right? So keeping that in mind, judges' decisions are confidential. We are anonymous. That's why, when you go to contests, you pretty much see everyone with an evaluation so that everyone can kind of see the criteria that people are being judged on. And again, we have an opportunity to stay anonymous and to be careful with not giving away any decisions that were made. So good judges are accurate, we're fair, we're trustworthy, we are knowledgeable, right? So, and that means reading those rule books and understanding the changes. Again, knowledgeable, good listeners. Good listeners mean that every single contestant that's up there, we are putting our undivided attention to that speech, to the movements of that speaker, and we are paying attention actively, right? A lot of times, I know that in my club, you'll get someone speaking so well, like the speech just was so engaging that sometimes like I'm the timer. Sometimes I forget that I'm the timer. So I'm like, oh wait, I'm the timer. I have to pay attention to the time, and so keep that in mind as well. I know a lot of times we have, by the time we get to, the area and division levels, we have pretty really good speeches already. And just keep in mind that we are here to judge that contestant. So keep that in mind as you're navigating those spaces. We do have to acknowledge that there are barriers, right, to objectivity. And if some of you on the call can think of any, feel free to put them in the chat as I go through them. One of them is speaker position, right? And a lot of times, yes, we have that inclination to remember that first speech and that last speech a lot easier than the rest of them, especially if we have a lot of contestants, right? So keeping that in mind, you want to make sure that we take notes where we can within the scrap paper that we are given, and that we take into account that we get at least a minute or two to really judge the criteria for each contestant after each contestant. Use that time wisely, right? So that you don't have to go back and be like, oh, what did that person say in that speech? Because remember, we're going to be given that same undivided attention to that next contestant, right? So keep that in mind as well. And welcome, welcome. The next thing is that you are also another barrier to objectivity is that we want to champion the underdog, right? And maybe, there's all males and one female, or maybe it's, a college student and everyone else is a professional. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but we tend to, again, champion for the underdog. The halo effect, right? And we also have the reverse, right? So, oh, this person's been great, and we feel bad for them, and then the opposite, right? So we want to make sure that we're not getting inclined to give somebody extra points just because we feel that, oh, they're such a good person. We really should give them some extra points, right? And a lot of times, again, we are not here to do that. We're here, again, on that criteria that we're judging. The second time around, like we have people that have judged, have been contestants before and have been judged and they didn't win. And so now, it's like, oh, it's there, and there's probably, because in my old district, we had people who competed all the time and they always made third or second but never first, right? Or they made it to first and they just didn't win in the next round. So you have those people and you're like, oh, but they've been so consistent in these no, we are not giving extra points because you've done contests before. So keep that in mind as well. We want to stay really objective. And again, if it's, they're giving a speech that's out of the norm, we want to tend to give extra points for that. Where if it's part of the criteria, go for it, but not because you're giving them extra points to give them extra points. Okay, so keep that in mind. And again, prejudices and personal preferences. A lot of us have things we like and don't like. It's just we're humans. That's what happens, right? We're human beings. So please keep that in mind, right? So I'll give you an example. I love baseball. So just because someone is going to give a speech about baseball doesn't mean that I'm going to give them an extra point because it was about baseball and I really like baseball. They could be talking about pickleball, which I still don't know exactly what that is, but apparently it's a big sport that a lot of people are doing. That doesn't mean I take points off because I don't even know what pickleball is, right? So keep that in mind as we navigate this. And again, know the rules. We want to really prevent misconceptions, and we want every single contestant, because think of it as you being a contestant. You would want to be judged against the criteria, period, right? And not anything else. So you want to make sure that you're being judged objectively, and that's what we're expecting from every judge as well. So we want to make sure we know the rules. For those of you that are on the call, definitely take the links. Again, they are on the district website, so if you don't get a chance to click on all of them, no worries. They're on the district website, so you can definitely grab them from there. All right, so here is what the ballot looks like, and we're going to go through each section so you have an idea of what's on there. The reason that I include the link for the actual documentation of the ballot and everything is so that you can see it yourself. And as a judge, you're going to be very familiar with this ballot. A tip from me, I've been judging for a while. I usually start with that last column. Why? Because then I'm able to fold it, right? And then I judge the next person objectively, and then I fold it. And then I judge the next person objectively, and then I fold it. That way I'm not forced, not forced, but it's right there. I don't want to be, teased to look over, oh, what did I give this? No, I am doing it very objectively. So that's just one of the things that I do to keep it as objective as possible. But again, this is what the ballot looks like. If you see on the bottom, it's first place, second place, third place, right? We want to be very clear on how we are doing that. And when we total the scores at the bottom, we want to make sure that we're accurate and that we're looking through the scoring. The other thing I'll point out is that the values start from zero, right? And I was also an adjunct professor in my past life, and an elementary and high school teacher for a small stint. But I always felt zeros were bad, always. But in Toastmasters, zeros are not bad. It is fair, right? So when you are looking at this, make peace with that. If some of you grew up that a zero was bad and it was in red on your homework, or maybe you never got a zero, so you don't know how to feel about it, make peace with it. It means in Toastmasters, in contest in Toastmasters, it really means fair, right? So you're starting at fair. Is this speech fair? From a 0 to 8, and then you score it, or a 0 to 5, 0 to 3, depending on what category. And then you can say, okay, was this really good or very good or excellent? And then you can go up the scale from there. So you can judge it. But understand that that beginning grade is really a fair speech. Some people come in and they do an excellent job. Then you're going to give them something closer to a 20. I'm not sure that we also fear the zero, just like we fear the top number. Was this person perfect? Is anyone perfect? So again, the grading is there. Hopefully you get to discern that for yourself as the person is making their speech. All right. So we're going to break this down. So again, we want to make sure we're taking notes. We use the suggested guidelines. If we think that they're fair, good, very good, or excellent, then we take whatever's in that bucket, right, as a guide. Were they very good on a high level of that or on the lower scale? And that's why they give you a scale, because you may have two people that are both good or very good, but are they both the same number? Probably not, right? So you want to make sure you use the suggested points, and then that you use other point values, right? Up to you. It is really up to you. Some people will use pluses. Some people will use minuses as they're scoring, right? It's up to you. Now, what I do say is pick something that's consistent. Because if you start minusing points on somebody and then adding points on someone else, you might end up adding and subtracting in the wrong way and end up like with your numbers all confused. So do what works for you, right? So the top score, and we'll go through each one, you'll see what the top score is. You could either say, I'm going to subtract a few points, and then at the end, I know I'm only subtracting X, Y, or Z. And again, the same thing, plus points, then you know you're just adding all the numbers. It's up to you. I usually have my phone on me to do my quick calculation, so I don't trust my math when I'm in contest mode, because there's too many distractions also. So keep that in mind as well. So here we have the judging categories for that part of, oops, go back, for that top part, right, which is content, delivery, and language. As we look at each of these, it is a big chunk of points for that content, right? So that is more heavily weighted than the delivery, and the delivery is a little bit more weighted than language. Okay, so keep that in mind that each of these sections are chunked off into different points of category. So those will be from 0 to 20, 0 to 15. Then the next category on delivery is from 0 to 10. And then that last section is also 0 to 10. So keep that in mind as you're going through the grading and putting points down. So here, when we look at the development and effectiveness and the value of the speech, we're looking at the structure, the organization of that speech. Did it have a beginning, middle, end? Do we have the supported material? And this year, we're doing the Toastmasters International, which is the full speech, but we're also doing table topics. And so that one is going to be a little bit of a shorter speech. So for them to have a organization and structure is going to be challenging this year. So definitely look out for that. And then look for supported material. I just attended a contest. Some districts chose to do a online contest just to practice in the fall, and I attended one. And I saw the progression of this particular speaker, but let me tell you how they had props. They had a jacket. They had, a bike hat. They had a train ticket, but they were really accentuating their journey on their speech. Like, did you ever travel and all you had was this? Boom. And they showed the plane, the train ticket. And then, they were like, well, I did. I went on this da 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 da, and I ended up going to this bike-a-thon to raise money for, and it's like a neurological disease in the brain. And again, she explained what that was, which I still can't remember what it was. It basically dealt with a rare disease in the brain. And the bikeathon was a fundraiser for that. And that when she ended up going through her journey, she ended up saying how she was a scientist. So she had her lab jacket, right? And then she took it off, and then she had her bike gear on, right? So all of her props really added to her speech, which I thought was amazing, right? And it really sparked emotion. It really went the gamut on feelings as you navigated that speech. So keep in mind that some of the props also add to the story, etc. So support material is what that is. Effectiveness, right? Did it achieve the purpose of that speech? Interest, reception. Sometimes you'll hear people use humor or something sad, and you'll see the reaction in the audience. You want to make sure you're taking that into account. And then the speech value, right? The ideas, how they came together, the logic. Was it original thought? People always have something to say about original thought, right? Because well, original thought, well, there's always an idea that gives you an idea to do a speech. So that other idea is not also probably not an original thought or an original idea, but it's original idea in that moment, right? Or there could be a hot, especially for I could see it for table topics, right? They give you an idea, and then you're running with it, right? And so again, original thought, that we're not listening to, the previous speech, we're not quoting it. All of those things have become rules in our rule book now. So keep that in mind as well. The physical, the actual, this is down the delivery, right? So the physical, the voice and the mannerisms, we want to take that into account, right? Like the body language, the whole speaking area, the appearance, right? How that person's coming across when they're giving that speech, the voice, if they're basically monotone and they're really not speaking and they're talking, and they're not having any type of variation, that also is going to cost them some points. So make sure you're looking for volume, flexibility, and then mannerisms. We appreciate directness and assurance and enthusiasm. Some people take it a step further. I haven't seen this in a very long time of people actually cursing or using obscene language. So keep that in mind as well, that would cost them some points, because the the mannerisms of this as well fall into that next category, and you'll see where here language is actually getting evaluated now. So a lot of it is correctness and appropriateness, and this is that category that addresses that, right? So again, to speech, purpose, and the audience also, these are general public audiences, right? And it could be anyone in the crowd. So we want to make sure it's appropriate. And usually I say it should be PG-13, right? To be appropriate for all audiences. And then correctiveness, grammar, pronunciation, word selection, all of those things fall into that category. Again, this category can make the difference between somebody winning first place and second place. Seriously, because that's 20 points, and that's still a lot of points. So keep that in mind as well. And then as we conclude, the strongest principle of growth lies in human choice. Again, we have contest tutorials also available. The link is also on the district site, so you can watch from the perspective of being a contestant and also the perspective of being a functionary. So when you watch them, they'll explain those different things so that people can navigate through that. Now, if any of you that are on the call have any questions, otherwise, I've prepared some frequently asked questions from the last few contests that we've had, not contests, trainings from the judge for the contest. I can definitely start with those, and then if you have any other questions, we can jump. But I'll give everyone a few seconds. If you have any questions, I can let you on mic or put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions from here.
Thank you. I had a question about like why it's always the same style that the winners always talk about emotional, personal stories. So, and you never see a speech win that's like a science research project or like a sales pitch. And why are they just all the same?
Honestly, that really comes from the speaker. It just so happens that those happen to be the ones that they want to choose to do. But I've been in contests where it's been so different. We've had inspirational story, then we had a total anecdotal. So it really depends on the contestant. And when we end up in the area and division and district, you will see a big difference there as well because people are coming from different parts of the district, right? But it really is the speaker's choice. So no one's told them to do, everyone do plan A. Like that's not how that works. Everything comes from the speaker and the contestant, right? So yeah, we can encourage our club members to do something different for sure. Okay, anyone else?
I have a quick question. Thank you so much, Dora. I am. You were saying organization of impromptu speeches. It's challenging, right? So how one would, in the spur of the moment, organize the speech such that it's meaningful in 2 minutes? What is your suggestion?
Well, to be honest, I actually began my courage of speaking because of table topics.
Mhm.
And the reason that I really love table topics, and hopefully people are participating in that in their just in their club meetings, because it does force you to think on your feet and have a point made. A lot of people like to speak and ramble. Like if you are in your, especially if you have family gatherings coming up in the holidays, notice how people ramble. There's no point to what they're saying. They just want to be heard, right? So everything, even you could have, think about an elevator pitch where you have a beginning, middle, and end. You have a point to be made, and you only have 30 seconds. People have put together excellent elevator pitches, and that's 30 seconds. So you're basically putting a concept together, a kind of a light explanation when you're beginning. Like, let's say that I asked you to speak on ice cream,
Mhm.
right? And this is off the cuff because we didn't practice this. So it just so happens that I love ice cream, so I figured I could talk about it. So if I decide to talk about it and I put a timer for 2 minutes, I'm going to talk about my journey with ice cream or my relationship with ice cream has started when the ice cream truck used to run down the block. Today, And then I'll bring my 2 points about today. Today, I've learned to pick ice cream that's actually healthy and not necessarily put all the fixings on it so I can lower the sugar and really enjoy ice cream. Also, my second love of ice cream and the reason I have began this beautiful relationship with ice cream is because it makes me feel better. It makes me smile, and they always have exciting flavors at the ice cream place. And then I can summarize, right, with saying, my relationship with ice cream has become a, a long lasting relationship. And that's without the truck coming and running, because I grew up in New York City. So the ice cream truck doesn't always come, but I can enjoy ice cream all year round, winter or not. And then that could be my 2 minute speech, right? So you can really put that together at the beginning and really tie in 2 points quickly. And if you practice that enough, you'll start to see that you can really make a point really quickly.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Hopefully that helps and I gave you a little example there. Okay, so Matthew says, one, in your opinion, which ballot criteria do judges struggle most to differentiate between good and great speeches? And then two, how do judges typically calibrate after the first speak? Usually, what I start to do is that I go online and I start looking at some of the speeches that have been done in the past, right? And then I start looking at the criteria, and then I see, in those contests who won first, second, third, and all that. And then I start to understand, like, oh, wow. So I could see the difference between this speech and this speech. So calibrating, again, you're going to give points as you go on. And as you start looking at the criteria objectively, you might inevitably have two people that have the same score. If it comes to that, you can go back through the criteria and say, okay, between this contestant and this contestant, who had a stronger first category, second category, or third category? And you go through it, and then you can say, okay, this one was stronger, and then you can give 1 point more or 1 point less, and then that'll end that battle in doing that, so that you can calibrate yourself. And yeah, the recalibration's a challenge. It has happened, but not too many times because I try to use that range fully. Like I already know like what my baseline is for fair. I already know my baseline is for very good. So for very good, you have to really be a strong speaker and hitting it out of the park. And especially I have only given out 120 in all the time that I've been a contestant. And literally the person knocked it out of the park. They actually went on to win. But again, it's up to you how you calibrate. It's because you're going by the criteria, right, that you are setting up. So you want to make sure that that criteria on how you're judging is the same for everybody, right? My criteria will not be the same as yours. Like I'm gonna have, like let's say for example, as I'm listening, I'm going to, look for, okay, fair. So fair for you might be a two. For me, it might be a three, right? But I'm judging everyone by that same thing. So it won't be that much different. That's why we have several judges, because everyone has a different way that they're judging things, right? So keep that in mind as well. And most people struggle with that recalibration part actually, because they really are looking at two contestants and now they got to remember those speeches, right? So that's why I'm saying take notes. Anything that stands out on the contestant, put it down so that you remember that later on if you need to recalibrate. But if you're using the full range, hopefully you won't need to calibrate, right? Because you're already calibrating as you go on. You're like, is this a high on the scale or is it a lower part? And then you could be honest with yourself. That's why they like judges to have completed, and that's one of the criteria of being a judge. They want you to have heard at least, like gone to the second level of pathways and to have heard enough speeches, right? That's why they want you to have gone that far, and also to be an active member, and to be in an active club, right? So that way you're exposed to a lot of speeches. And if you would like to be a judge in the semifinals or the regionals or even the world finals, they really want you to have had experience judging prior as well because they want you to have that your grasp of being a judge and an objective one. That's why each of us will have our calibration, right? And then we will be judging everyone against that same calibration. So it's going to be consistent against all the contestants, right? Does that help, Matthew, or did I answer your question?
Yeah. Uh, the the first question, not quite. I was just thinking like there's lots of different criteria, obviously,
Hmm.
on the scorecard. Yep.
Yeah,
I was
so
just
I'll go
wondering
back to the ballot, the main
which one
ballot.
do you think is the hardest for
To be
judges to
honest,
score?
the voice, the whether the person was monotone or not, whether
Hmm.
they use body language or not, all of those are self-evident. What isn't is their effectiveness. So I think that's the box that always gets me. I'm like, how was this received? And I
Yeah.
get to kind of see the vibe of the audience. Maybe the audience was asleep. Maybe they had to drive 3 hours to get there and they're tired. I don't know. So that one is the toughest, I think. But again, you're an audience member at that point too. So keep that in mind as well. Like, how did you receive that speech? And did you get what the intention was? And all of that falls into, hey, did they achieve their purpose in doing this speech? When I heard this woman do her speech on the bikeathon and all that, I'm like, wow, she achieved her purpose because she wanted us to understand the importance of this, that she didn't even realize how important this was. And it came full circle to, the job that she had because she's an actual scientist in the neuro space, right?
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, it's and that's why I say listen to other speeches also so you can kind of get an idea of, oh, now I can see what the purpose is. Now I see how this comes here. And the more speeches you listen to, the better judging becomes, right? Because you're looking at it. Now every single speech you hear from here until the contest, start using the criteria, right? Start practicing. And then you'll start to get the hang of it. You're like, "Oh man, this speech value was tremendous." Like boom. And then wow, this one was flexibility and the voice volume was very monotone. Like you'll start to see a lot of that. Like my brain is wired now that way, even at work. When someone is doing a speech or presentation, I was like, oh wow, they should go to Toastmasters. So yeah, it's a little bit of that too. You get to see it, and the more you practice it, the more you get to see it as well.
Thank you.
Okay. I had a few frequently asked questions just in case folks on the replay have questions. I'll add them here. So one of the things we want to be careful, again, we're looking for the best speaker that day of that contest. I know in this district, we'll be doing in the area and division level, we will be doing the southern region of the district together and the northern part of the district together. Again, we are looking for the best speaker that day in the contests that you're in, right? We do not share our votes, so please keep them confidential, even from other judges. If you figure out who the other judges are, don't provide feedback to contestants. It really should stay anonymous. If contestants in your clubs are asking questions, you know what? They can have a friend that can record them if they want and give them feedback if they want, right? So they're free to do that on their own. Do not, do not provide any feedback because inevitably it just it doesn't help anyone, doesn't serve anyone. Yes, read the rule book. Read it several times because again, they'll tweak a few things. And if you notice, we added an extra link on the website, which is the changes and why they are changes. So keep that in mind as well. We have addressing any protests. The protests are limited to the voting judges. So that's those of us that step up to be judges, and the contestants, right? So keep that in mind. The chief judge, I have stepped up to be the chief judge for the district, the contest chair, right? And the voting judges and contestants must not consider potential protest from the audience members. So just keep that in mind as well. And any protest needs to be logged with the chief judge and or the contest chair to prior to any announcements being made, basically, and before the contest is adjourned. So resolution will happen before anything is announced. And again, it's part of of just the process. And again, prior to announcing results, the chair of the contest must announce if there was a time disqualification occurred. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because no names will be involved. But let's say, for example, that maybe by the time we get to, division level, there are two people, doing one of the contests and one of them got disqualified. We will not mention that, right? So just keep that in mind because then it gives away that it kind of gives the feeling that the person won because the other one got disqualified, right? And we don't want someone having that feeling going into the next round, right? So just that they will not mention that if it's less than two people or two people basically. But three or more, they will announce it. So keep that in mind as we navigate that. And again, we have area and division and district contestants that are going to be in person. So that changed from what it was in the past. It was a little bit more flexible. So keep that in mind that area contests are held in one day for the Southern, one day for the Northern. Those things are being sorted out. If those of you that are doing this training are interested, please block out your calendars. The dates are on the district website's calendar. Just block out your dates so that you're not planning something around that time because we need all the volunteers that we can get. As you can imagine, there's a lot of volunteers needed. Again, paperwork collection and review by the contest team will still happen probably in the beginning of prior to each of the level of those contests. But 100% of the clubs need to notify the district of their winners and notify that they do intend to compete, right? So that we're not sending out endless emails. Are you competing? Are you competing? Are you competing? And also because we're asking clubs to let us know if they're competing or not, and if there's and who they're sending as functionaries, right? If we can get a couple of volunteers from every single club, we will be covered as far as the volunteer functionaries that we have. So what is staying the same? Clubs, you're able to conduct your contest in any format you'd like, virtual, hybrid, in person, wherever you want, however you want, right? Or you can nominate someone. So we have some clubs that don't have anyone really putting their their hat in the ring, and you have this brave soul that wants to represent your club, you are free to nominate that person. Area and division directors can still support their club contests, so please be aware of that. We're expecting a lot of help from everyone in those roles. And then as far as area directors, they are still able to have a speaking part on the contest day. I know a lot of times when people run for office, that's like a big thing of not being, unfairly marketed and things like that, but that is still allowed. Okay. All right. And then this year, again, the contests are international speech contest, which is a full-on speech, and then table topics contest. And usually what happens on that one is that they will keep the contestants in a holding room. And as people come in, they will be given the prompt and they will be able to speak as well from there. So that's what's happening there. This is the dates roughly of when things are happening. And again, all the dates are on the calendar. The locations are a little bit to be determined because they're still ironing out those things. But just again, just block out those dates so that you are aware of when things are happening. We had a contest town hall. We've had two of them already, which went well, and people had questions. So a lot of if you're still wondering about the contest season and have questions, please reach out to Gabrielle. She's more than gracious and will answer anything that you need. And then she'll tap on the contest chair or myself, the chief judge, to get anything else ironed out. But again, the deadline for for club contest notification is January 27. So by January 27, she's going to know how many clubs are participating and how many people we have in the pool of volunteers, which is why we're doing that. So that when we start the area contest in Fairbury and in the division, we know how many people we need or still need for volunteers. I highlighted here how many we had or needed, and I put it in a nice chart. So at the club level, you still need 5 judges. Like you still need to have 5. So at the area level as well, and then at the division and district level, you do need 7, right? So again, we also have the tiebreaker judge, and usually only the chief judge knows who that is. And then we have ballot counters as well. And then we have timers, right? So keep that in mind as well. We do have 2 timers and 1 for backup. And especially for the in-person, we definitely need to have probably even a backup to the backup so that, if somebody can't make it and it's, somewhere where it's an hour or 2 away, we can easily recruit another timer. But again, these are the different things that come up. All right. And then lastly, please go over the code of ethics, right? We want to make sure that as a judge, we are, paid as a member, that we are, you know, paid for at least the 6 month. I usually tell people if you don't want to get caught up in that, when did you pay those 6 months? Just pay for the year. That's usually my rule of thumb. Otherwise, you have people, even as contestants, they live on the edge. They're like, I'm going to pay the day before. And they go ahead and they do that. So again, TI is meticulous, right? They will look at the winner and they will trace back when you were active, when did you pay, like, and then they look at your club. Is your club in good standing? Like, they look at all of that. So keep that in mind. And usually what I tell people, make sure that your club is in good standing, make sure you're in good standing, and then you should be good. But again, and usually I tell people by the 15th of December, you should be good. And I'm glad that in this district, they're doing everything up to the district before the payment is due, because that just throws everything off. But TI, they do not play. They're very good detectives. So keep that in mind. And again, we do have a code of ethics as well. So keep that in mind as you navigate that we uphold Toastmasters' core values of integrity, service, and respect and excellence. So keep that in mind. We have a few more there, and hopefully all of you also have checked that you have no conflict of interest with any of the contestants as they come up. That would cause you to be biased. And there's, a bunch of things that, when you read through this that, pretty much will make sense. But the code of ethics is very important as we navigate being a judge. We want to make sure we're objective, we're fair, and that we're doing an awesome service to that contestant. Every single contestant that comes up has mustered up all the courage to get on that stage and deliver that speech. And that's the least that we can do for them. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind, and we read through our eligibility and we read through the code of ethics as well. And lastly, the rule book and the resources, they are all on the website for District 7. So d7toastmasters.org, speech contest. So you can definitely find all of the links on there as well, especially for those of you that are looking at the replay. And alternates are allowed this year. The volunteering, they're asking for people to volunteer all day or half a day, however you can volunteer. So they will be having a form on the website to get volunteers as well to sign up. So keep an eye out for that. That form should already it should have been on the website by last Friday, but if not, it'll be up there pretty soon. Other than that, any other questions from those of you in the room?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Like, I think that you're not allowed to at a club contest. You're not allowed to take a video And if you want to take a picture, you have to ask every person who's going to be in the picture. Does that sound right?
Yes. There's
Okay.
always a video and photography permission, and so that should be handled by that contest chair each time. For the
But I
district,
believe
we put it out for every level. I'm surprised that they don't do that at the club level proactively.
wait, are you saying that a video might be allowed if they give permission?
Um, well, if the contestant wants to be recorded,
Mhm.
we have allowed that, but the only person getting recorded is the contestant.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah,
explaining that. The other
yeah.
thing I wasn't really sure about with the timer, because I know in the international contest, you're allowed to go to 4 minutes, 30 seconds. And does the contestant get a green light at that 4 minutes and 30 seconds?
The contestant will get, well, I don't know why it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The speeches normally are from 5 to 7 minutes.
Mhm.
And then the table topics are 2 minutes. So they're going to get the regular green card. They're going
Mhm.
to, so that when they hit that mark, right, that lower threshold, they'll get the green. Then
Mhm.
at the next milestone, they get the yellow, right? So for, let's say, a 5 to 7 minute speech, they'll get the green at the 5. And the 30-second mark is not, you don't know what that is. It's a gauge. So no, the answer to that is no. Then the
Mhm.
yellow one will come up at the 6 minute mark. So that's a minute in. And by then you definitely know you made it. And then the next one that you'll get is the red card at the 7 minute mark, right? And then
Mhm.
they just leave the red up until you're done. So
Mhm.
there's no signal that, hey, you've made it to the 30. No. They leave the
Right.
card up. And so hopefully you've practiced your speech enough or your response enough to know like, hey, I think I've met the threshold. That's why you see a lot of people abruptly stopping when they see the red card. So that's another thing that I've seen a lot too, because they
Okay,
don't want
thank
to
you.
risk it. All right. Any other questions? All right. There are two timers ticking the time so that we can definitely validate the time. And then we do have a backup timer in case someone doesn't show up. So hopefully the clubs will do that as well. Other than that, we can wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, all of you, again, for helping the district, volunteering your time, and to helping these contestants have a great experience. So I do appreciate it, and the time that you took today to do the training, and for those on the replay, for taking the time to go through the training and the videos on the website to just be well equipped to show up and help the district. So with that, those of you on the call, all the links, I'll put them again in the chat. Feel free. I'll stay a minute longer and I'll stop the recording. Actually, I forgot we were recording this, so that you can have it. And for those of you on the replay, again, all of the links that I have posted in the chat are on the district website. So just go to d7toastmasters.org and you'll see the speech contest link there, and then all the links will be in that section. All right, let me stop the recording here and give folks a few minutes to just click on all the links. The rules are there, and also the changes, which I think is very helpful so that you can look at the changes. That document is very useful for you to kind of navigate. A lot of times we have questions like, hey, what changed from last year and why did they change it? They're